The thumbnail has me at odds here. The thumbnail says the milking room. The thumbnail says the milking room. The mystery changed Sweden forever. Lisa Holm by True Crime Stories. Tie knots? Is this woman getting milked by any chance? I'm so scared to watch this. Is this woman getting milked? The following video contains footage and evidence from true crime cases. Some of this content may be seen as disturbing or shocking to some viewers. The crime scene evidence shown and discussed in this documentary is real and can be quite chilling. Viewer discretion is advised. This is a story about milking. I'm scared.
The search for Lisa Holm was the largest missing person search in the history of Skövde, if not Sweden. The 17-year-old girl had gone missing after getting done with her shift at Cafe 40. Sweden was once known for
17. Oh, so young. Shit. Damn, already. It's bad. Oh boy.
Non-existent crime rate. But with Lisa's disappearance, things were about to change. What happened to Lisa was beyond horrific. Just 5 days after Lisa vanished, her body would be found, and the media quickly dubbed her case the
Okay, we're gonna read this. The milking room deletion. The peaceful town was shaken in its core after the discovery of Lisa Holm's body near an abandoned milking room. Pause. Late Sunday evenings, the 17-year-old had been missing for nearly a week, prompting an intense community-wide search that gripped the entire area. Officials confirmed that the body was located during a follow-up sweep of the property, raising questions about how it was missed during earlier searches. According to investigators, the site was isolated and rarely visited, making it an ideal spot for such a heinous act. It's the worst thing we've ever seen here, one resident said. This town has never experienced anything like this before. While authorities remain tight-lipped about potential suspects, they have confirmed that a foul play is suspected. Several persons of interest have been questioned, but no arrest has been made as of yet. Okay. So, I took this the wrong way. Okay, good.
milking room murder, for reasons that, well, you'll have to hear to believe. Welcome to True Crime Stories. If you're new here, I'm your host, Ty Knotts, and I post new true crime documentaries every single week. So if you're into that kind of thing, and let's be honest, if you're watching this video, you probably are, be sure to hit that.
I wasn't into it. I'm not into it. Help. You need to send help. I'm held at gunpoint by my own community to watch these. Help. You need to help me. Anyways.
Subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything, it just keeps you up to date with all my future videos. Lisa Holm was born in Skövde, England. Lisa had always been fond of traveling, and she wanted to study abroad in Australia, and she was defined as a kind, lively, positive, and loving person. She was very helpful towards other people, and she loved the thought of being independent. This is why when Lisa was just a teenager, she started working various part-time jobs to earn some money. A few weeks before the events of today's case, Lisa had gotten a job at a cafe in Blomberg. The cafe was about 40 minutes away from her home, and one of her parents took Lisa to and from work each day. Since this was the first time Lisa
okay. So we just got a regular, ambitionist girl. Oh no. Oh no.
was working so far away from home, her parents wanted to be the ones to drop her off and pick her up for their own peace of mind. But on June 7th of 2015, it had been just a few weeks since Lisa had started working at the cafe, and she was confident she could now go to work on her own. But tragically, the very first day that Lisa gained her independence would be her last.
Dude, imagine you're the parents, right? Imagine like the mother or the father putting like, right? Usually driving her there to work, right? And then one day she says she wants to do it on her own. And you know what? there was probably a little bit of arguing, like, are you sure I shouldn't drive you? Right? And then, like stuff like that, right? And then your girl just disappears. Your little girl just disappears. Because you weren't, because like you would definitely give yourself the fault for this, right? You would be like, maybe if I was more persistent, she would be safe and stuff, right? Horrifying.
Lisa's parents had gotten her a moped for traveling to and from work. Even though her parents were a bit apprehensive about letting her go to work on her own, they knew how important it was for Lisa to experience this on her own. So on June 7th of 2015, Lisa grabbed her stuff, hopped into her moped, and headed to the cafe without any problem. The cafe was busy, people were going in and out, and time flew by. Before Lisa knew it, the clock struck 6 p.m. and it was time to wrap everything up, and Lisa sent a text to her dad a little before 6:30 saying she'd be home soon. Back in Skovda, Lisa's parents were happy and relieved that their daughter had finally gotten free from work and she was on her way back. They were grateful that things had gone by uneventfully. But that wouldn't be the case for long. Sometime later, Lisa's dad received a call from Lisa, and when he picked it up, there was something weird on the other end of the line. Lisa's dad kept calling her name, but he heard other people in the background and some disruption like car doors open.
Oh god, this were multiple people. Oh no. Oh no, I don't like where this is going. I don't like where this is going.
Opening and slamming shut before the call got disconnected. This incident put Lisa's parents on edge, but they chalked it up to just being a pocket dial. Maybe Lisa was on her way and her phone accidentally pressed some buttons and called her parents. So they waited for Lisa to come home. But 40 minutes went by, then an hour, and then 2 hours, and Lisa still wasn't home. This was very unsettling for Lisa's family. The ride from Blomberg to Skovda should have taken around 40 minutes, maybe 50 if Lisa was running late, but it had now been close to 3 hours and Lisa hadn't made it back home. So what was going on? Lisa's family constantly called her while waiting on pens and needles. They were sure that Lisa had gotten into an accident or something. So after waiting longer than necessary, Lisa's dad got into his car and made the drive to Blomberg. He was driving slowly, hoping to catch Lisa on the road, making her way back home. But as he got closer and closer to his destination, well, the more fearful he became. There was no sign of Lisa on the way. When Lisa's dad reached the cafe, he looked around for her, and the first thing he saw was Lisa's moped. He was instantly relieved.
Okay, so the moped was there. Okay. So she was already essentially kidnapped before she even got, like, not on the way. Okay.
He immediately thought that Lisa had stayed back with some friends for a little hangout or something. But as he got closer to the moped, he noticed something alarming. Lisa's helmet was still hanging on the side, and her keys were in the ignition. Why would Lisa leave her keys and moped unattended like this, unless the moped had been abandoned? Her dad looked around for a bit more, and when he couldn't find Lisa anywhere, he called the police at around 10 p.m. and reported 17-year-old Lisa Holm missing. While the police—
Okay, the investigation. Is this gonna end up as a gang rape? Because I know that Sweden has quite a big problem with those, due to reasons. Before leaving for home. Yep. Before leaving, probably right before the moped. Probably, I would assume.
Police were on the way. Lisa's mom called the cafe owner, who also reached the place in no time and started searching for the young employee. The cafe owner stated that her employees were off the clock at 6 p.m., and now it was almost 4 hours later, and Lisa was nowhere to be found, and her moped was seemingly abandoned. It wasn't like the moped wasn't working or had broken down, it was working like a well-oiled machine, and it made no sense in anyone's mind why Lisa would voluntarily abandon her vehicle and go somewhere else. When the police arrived, they immediately came to the conclusion that Lisa was probably abducted, which was a rarity in Sweden, but they had to go through all the possibilities in this young girl's disappearance. The cafe where Lisa worked was located in a small village, and it was secluded, but it wasn't a hotspot for crime per se. It was peaceful and quiet. Well, the police started...
Right, the keys were there, so she was straight up just abducted straight up there right in front of her moped. That's crazy.
...their search in nearby areas, and search dogs aided in that process. They went from door to door asking if anyone had seen Lisa, and they even checked the neighboring areas that might stand out or look suspicious in some way. They also asked people if they'd seen or heard anything strange, but at this point, there was nothing. Lisa had just vanished into thin air, and no one could find her. As it was getting really late by now, almost 11 p.m. at this point, the police decided to pause the search till the next morning. In the meantime, Lisa's friends and loved ones spread the word about her disappearance on social media.
Waited too late. Probably. Not gonna lie, when I would have received, if I was a father and I would receive a call like that, when my daughter was not responding, I would immediately call the police. Immediately. Not gonna lie, I would immediately do that. They probably even waited a little too long. Perhaps.
In hopes of jogging people's memories and helping them figure out what happened to Lisa. The next morning, the police search resumed, and this time, a man came forward with something. He worked at a barn right across from the cafe, and he noticed a discarded motorcycle glove on the ground of one of the barn rooms. The man immediately turned the glove into the police, and the investigators asked Lisa's parents to identify this glove as Lisa's. And the answer came as an unsettling revelation. The discarded glove indeed belonged to the now missing Lisa. But why was her glove all the way at this barn? What was Lisa doing there? Well, the police believed that she didn't go there voluntarily, and it was
possibly. Doug, I'm disappointed. You always name people. Wait, what do you mean? Huh? What do you mean, you apple? You made me eat an apple. Classic. Classic. I ate a few apples today as well. Don't worry. You're cooked. I can understand them not picking up once. That's fine. More than 3, that's concerning. I would already be concerned if, like, I'm gonna be saying it. Like, a pocket call is very unlikely. That doesn't happen all that often. I'll be honest. Because with how phones in general, modern phones, usually have like, they have like, even in 2015, right? Face recognition, finger sensors, right? There's almost, or right, password. It's almost impossible nowadays. Well, even back in 2015, it's still impossible to even call somebody accidentally. So yeah, I'd probably be concerned. Oh nah, that should have been a warning sign. That I would, as if I were a father, yeah, immediate crash out.
She may have been taken there against her will, further cementing that abduction theory. The search for Lisa was huge. It was the largest missing person search conducted by volunteers in the history of Sweden, with hundreds of volunteers showing up every day, looking in various places, searching for Lisa. There were even air searches, and everyone was determined to find her. Soon enough, the police, as well as the volunteers, did start to find some alarming clues. See, the police searched a side road that was near the cafe, and within minutes, they were able to find some receipts, a smashed phone screen, and a phone case, among other things. Deeper searches of this roadside led the police to find more.
Oh yeah, this isn't going the way. This is going really. This is bad. This is really bad. This is really, really bad.
Parts of that broken phone. Lisa's parents recognized the phone, or parts of it, and the cover as Lisa's. Things were not looking good. Lisa had gone missing, and now her phone was broken to pieces, and her belongings were scattered on the side of the road near the cafe. Over the next few days, Lisa's ID, her moped license, and her house keys were all found dumped on the side of the road, covered in—
Oh, that's the terrifying thing, right? The house keys. If they would have found out where she lived, they could have pulled up to the parents. Oh.
In overgrown grass. The same day, a volunteer, who was actually Lisa's dad's friend, had a strange feeling about the barn across the street. As he approached closer to the barn, he noticed something was amiss. The police tape had been ripped off. This was really unsettling, but again—
Oh no. The police tape was put there and they dumped her there. Or he, or whatever.
Against his nerves, the man decided to go into the barn, and within minutes, he was able to find a small earring on the floor. When this earring was showed to the police, it was sadly Lisa's. And when they searched around the barn, they noticed soiled walls, which was a really bizarre sight. A sample of the waste was collected because the investigators had a strong inkling that this would lead to some answers, and it turned out it did. Missing
The body in the shed, I wonder what happened to her. This is gonna be gross, probably.
People, a local Swedish organization, also joined the search for Lisa, and they searched the barn and other buildings near the cafe. When they reached the place near the barn, they were stopped by two people in a car who told the volunteers that police had already searched that area. Now, this interaction left the workers of missing people.
That's weird. That's suspicious. Wait, are these two? Wait, are these the two? Bros are retarded.
People uneasy. Why would some random people try to stop them from searching a specific area for a missing girl? Regardless, after the car sped off into the distance, the workers resumed their search, and they found some things. They found a pink motorcycle jacket, as well as headphones hidden under some branches. The police were called, and sure enough, the jacket and headphones belonged to Lisa. The property was soon littered with police, and for
Why is all her, I mean, it makes sense to spread out all her, maybe they spread out all her stuff to make it harder to find her, to lead to different clues. But also, why, oh god, are they gonna find more, if they find more clothes, ugh.
forensic teams, and that was when they saw something else in the distance. It was a shed. It was really small, and it was used as a changing room for the barn workers. It also looked like someone had been in the shed recently. See, the shed was surrounded by overgrown grass, but the grass leading up to the door looked like it had just been walked on. So the police decided to look into the work shed too. But as soon as they stepped into the shed, they were hit with a disturbing and rancid odor. It was a
Oh, wait, she was already, oh, nah, this can't be. What did they do to her?
nightmare inside. They didn't need any more confirmation that something bad had happened there. When the detectives looked around, their eyes went to a cluster of clothing lockers against one of the walls. Most of them were empty and closed, while one was filled to the brim and wide open. The police checked all of the lockers one by one, but as they reached the stuffed locker, they
Oh no!
removed the clothing and miscellaneous items inside, and what they saw literally made them jump out of their skin. And they were police officers. They've seen much worse, but this was horrific. Stuffed inside the narrow and tiny locker space was the body of 17-year-old Lisa Holm. She was partially clothed, and someone had used a rope to end her life. The search for Lisa ended in the worst possible way, because she'd been attacked so brutally by an assailant, and now she was gone. Her family was immediately notified of the discovery, and to say that they were absolutely—
What did they do to her? What did they— She was partially clothed. She was partially— Oh, nah, bro. That's heinous. Nah, bro. Nah, bro. Death penalty. Immediately.
shocked was an understatement. Her parents were beside themselves. For the first time, Lisa wanted to go to the cafe on her own and prove to her parents nothing bad would happen. But the literal opposite happened, and in a quiet, safe, and cozy town, no less. Can you imagine how Lisa's parents must have felt? The sheer number of what-ifs going through their minds. What if they persuaded Lisa to let them take her to work? What if they just picked her up despite her saying otherwise? And that phone call that Lisa's dad got. It was all—
But isn't this weird that they passed her off at her moped? Isn't that weird? That's weird. This feels planned. Because why? Like, you would literally need to wait at the moped or follow her outside to the moped. But even then, she was already there. The keys were already in there. Huh.
all so haunting and heartbreaking. Now that Lisa's body had been found, the police had to catch the perpetrator. Luckily, the police were able to get DNA samples from Lisa's body as well as inside of the shed, and everything was sent for testing. In the meantime, the police wanted to look into the two men who crossed paths with volunteers from missing people at the barn, the ones who said that that area had already been searched by the police. Well, after a bit of poking and prodding, the police managed to uncover who these people were. They were Lithuanian natives, 35-year-old Nerijus and his brother. They actually didn't even speak Swedish. They communicated in English, which was the same language in which the men communicated with the volunteers. Interestingly enough, the two brothers worked in the same barn that was right across the road from the cafe where Lisa worked. On top of that, the side road where Lisa's belongings were found trashed was the same road that led to the brothers' house. In the house, the two brothers lived with Nerijus' wife, and they actually talked to the police on the day that Lisa went missing.
Where they're sharing the wife. Ugh.
The fact they spoke English stood out to the police. Another woman came forward and said that a man who didn't speak Swedish approached her in a car and asked for directions in English. He wanted the woman to sit inside the car for a minute so that she could enter the location into his GPS.
Well, that's vile, bro. Oh no, thank goodness she did not sit in the car.
But the woman obviously didn't get into his car and she just walked away. All of these instances stood out to the police, so they wanted to have a quick chat with these people. When they talked to Nerijus and his wife, they were quick to come to their defense. Nerijus said that he was at home the same time Lisa went missing, and his wife, his only real alibi, was in the kitchen prepping dinner. Meanwhile, his younger brother was at home on his computer. The police obviously didn't buy this story, because they thought that they were simply covering for each other and there was no way to tell whether their stories were even true or not. Regardless, the police took DNA samples from all three people, but since they didn't have any rock-solid evidence against them, they were free to go. Well, it wasn't for long because the DNA results from the work shed came in, and they were a match to someone. See, there were many stains on the walls where Lisa's body was found, and to everyone's disgust, it was male DNA. But that's not even the worst part. See, the shed had a small space with a window that overlooked the cafe.
What did he say?
For long because the DNA results from the work shed came in, and they were a match to someone. See, there were many stains on the walls where Lisa's body was found, and to everyone's disgust, it was male DNA. But that's
In everyone's disgust, I think he said disgust.
and they were a match to someone. See, there were many stains on the walls where Lisa's body was found, and to everyone's disgust, it was male DNA.
Stains. On the wall. Why would there be stains on the wall? Stains. I think we know what that means. Partially clothed. Stains on the wall. Male. Not fingerprints. Not anything else. Partially clothed. Stains on the wall. I know. He isn't saying it, but we know what that means. He isn't saying it, but we know what that means. He isn't saying it, but we know what that means. We know what these dudes did. Do we? What else could it be? What else could leave stains? It's not blood. He would have mentioned that. What else could he be? What else could these stains be? I know what these men did.
But that's not even the worst part. See, the shed had a small space with a window that overlooked the cafe where Lisa worked, and most of the male DNA was found on that wall near that window. I don't think I need to go into detail about what this suggests, but the DNA found in the work shed matched that of Nerijus.
What? Wait. Hold up. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Wall near that window. I don't.
Again.
Discussed, it was male DNA. But that's not even the worst part. See, the shed had a small space with a window that overlooked the cafe where Lisa worked, and most of the male DNA was found on that wall near that window.
Oh no! You know what that means? He overlooked the cafe, right? And you know what he did, right? I don't think I need to... he doesn't need to go into detail what he did in there. He beat his... Oh no, he watched her and beat his death penalty. Sweden does not have the death penalty, but I think in this specific case, firing squad. I just realized it. Yeah, that's what I meant with stains. That's what I meant with stains.
I don't think I need to go into detail about what this suggests, but the DNA found in the work shed matched that of Nereus. So from the looks of it, Nereus was a pervert and kind of a peeping Tom. He basically spied on female employees and
he spied on her.
Including Lisa from the window of the shed across from the cafe. And remember those traces of human waste found in the barn? Well, that was also Nereus' doing. It was theorized by the police as well as crime scene experts that the perpetrator probably underwent a rush of adrenaline during or after committing the crime and had no control over his bodily functions, and he soiled himself.
Oh, he pissed himself! He pissed himself!
The nail in the coffin was found in another adjoining room in the barn. It was used as a milking room for cows, and inside they found the same rope that was used to murder Lisa, as well as Lisa and Nereus' DNA all over the room and on the pipe to which the rope had previously been tied. When Nereus' room was searched following the discovery of all this incriminating evidence, detectives found strands of blonde hair that matched Lisa's. Nereus had been caught, but he and his wife were still holding on tightly to their story. They stressed that someone was trying to frame Nereus, and he was not involved in whatever happened to Lisa whatsoever. That was until the police talked to Nereus' younger brother, and he became Nereus' eventual downfall. See, the younger brother was unable to keep up lying to the police, and he came forward and said that in reality, Nereus was not home when Lisa went missing. And according to his wife, and initially even his younger brother, Nereus was at home between 6 and 8 p.m. on the evening of June 7th of 2015. And he only went out after 8 p.m. to go to a local gas station to get some food. Well, this time, Nereus' younger brother had a completely different story. He said that Nereus basically forced his brother to tell everyone that he was home between 6 and 8 p.m., and when he asked where Nereus truly was, his brother began to unfold everything. He said that Nereus had gone missing for most of the evening, and he actually came back home at around 7:30 or close to 8 p.m. that night. His appearance was shattered.
Arrest the wife and her husband. Her husband and his wife, both. Arrest the wife with him. Yep, absolutely. Without a shred of a doubt. Horrible.
His clothes were dirty as if he'd taken a roll in the dirt, and he immediately took off his clothes and put them in the washing machine, which was unusual behavior because Nereus never washed any of his clothes immediately. They usually just went in the hamper. To make matters worse, when the police checked Nereus' electronics, they found something very disturbing. Nereus frequented adult websites and watched really questionable adult videos, which bordered on being illegal. Even though there was no definitive evidence of Nereus forcing himself on Lisa during the attack, it's speculated that he got a kick out of seeing people suffer and be in pain. And so following these findings, Nereus was arrested.
Oh, thank good. At least that. Thank goodness. Oh my goodness. Thank God. He didn't do anything in that way. Still penalty. Bye-bye.
Arrested for Lisa's murder and was awaiting trial. What was so astounding was that Nereus' wife stood by him the entire time of his trial. She never once believed her husband to be the perpetrator, and the couple even went as far as blaming the younger brother, saying he was the one who murdered Lisa and somehow planted Nereus' DNA all over the place. Well, no one was convinced because the only person who didn't have an alibi was Nereus himself. The prosecution presented their arguments and stated that Nereus had been eyeing the cafe for a long time by the barn window, spying on unsuspecting young women. On June 7th, it's believed that Nereus
Are the arrows...
been eyeing the cafe.
Are, like, the arrows here? If this is from the real place, are these arrows goon... Bro, that's disgusting. Oh my god. If the arrows are what I think they are, then that's horrid, bro. That is horrid. Brian was coming against the wall.
For a long time by the barn window, spying on unsuspecting young women. On June 7th, it's believed that Nereus lured Lisa into his car as she was leaving work, under the pretense of asking for directions. Lisa somehow got into Nereus' car, and that was when she was overpowered. Nereus then drove to the barn where he ultimately ended Lisa's life in the milking room and soiled himself from the twisted excitement of it all. It's believed that he then loaded Lisa's body into his car and then drove to the work shed, getting rid of Lisa's belongings on the dirt road in the process. He then stuffed Lisa's body into one of the lockers, covered it with clothes, and walked out of the work shed all within an hour, which is terrifying to think about. Well, 5 months following Lisa's murder, on November 17th of 2015, the verdict was finally given.
Would it stick though? Yeah, his brother was for sure there helping him to do deeds. He was doing stalking women, possibly. Wouldn't it stick though? How did no one realize? Because it's an old work shed. Like, dirt spots are not special. Ugh.
Nereus was sentenced to life in prison in Sweden. He was placed in a high-security prison, but he later appealed to be transferred to Lithuania in hopes of reducing his sentence there. He was ultimately transferred to his native country in 2017, and even managed to get a lower sentence, as low as 15 years. But this happiness was short-lived, because his original conviction was reinstated the same year, and he was going to stay behind bars in Lithuania for the rest of his life. Lisa's funeral.
Big, huge, big W at Lithuania. Big, huge.
Was held on July 7th of 2015, approximately a month after her murder, and she was laid to rest in Satyrs Church outside of Skovda. The Holm family endured a tremendous loss, and they hoped and prayed that their daughter's murderer never gets any mercy. But one more thing would happen, and it would lead to a very unsatisfactory end to this case. I hate that we're still talking about Nereus, who doesn't deserve any more attention, but it was reported that he was picked on and bullied in prison, to the point that he was beaten black and blue. This harassment followed Nereus all the way to Lithuania.
Big, huge. I'm happy. Good.
Too. And I mean, it's definitely kind of a karmic payback, but on April 3rd of 2022, things took a vicious turn when Nereus was found with a fatal wound to his neck while on a walk in prison. He didn't survive and he passed away on the way to the hospital.
I see no issue. He made it seem like a bad thing. I see no issue.
It is devastating that Lisa's family had a taste of justice, but just 7 years into that sentence, they'd be left with no more satisfaction at the fact that their daughter's killer was suffering behind bars, because now he was killed by a fellow inmate. Lisa's family, they're just heartbroken. Not only that their daughter's killer got off so easy.
Well, you could view it from that position as well, right? He didn't suffer long enough in prison. However, I believe there's a place for people like that. For sure. Definitely.
But that any of this happened in the first place. For the Holm family, there really wasn't any justice. There wasn't any reprieve. There wasn't any silver lining. They were just met with hurt on top of hurt. But if there is any justice to be had, they can rest easy knowing that Lisa's killer, he may have gotten away with it in this life, but his punishment won't be so light in the next.
The problem is this, right? The problem is this. The problem is this. You never know, right? Right now, it is behind bars for life. But you never know, right? It could be that at 60, for some odd reason, they release him. And what then? To be fair, what's better? Him getting annihilated in prison, or the chance of him walking among this earth? That's the question here. Though he did suffer the days he was in there, for sure.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of True Crime Stories. I wanted to give a special thank you to a couple channel members, including JD Marie and Georgie Picaver.
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video. I also find it good that he ended it with a Bible verse. Very true. Very true. There's not much to say. A 17-year-old shouldn't die. An innocent 17-year-old shouldn't die that young. Nobody should die, in general, by something like that. The only good thing out of this outcome is that he, in quote-unquote, because he's a creep, only took her life and didn't do worse to her body. Though, there's a chance. The question is, how honest, how truly honest, if something terrible happens, right? How truly honest does the police actually report to like the news and the parents, right? Because I'm be honest, if I had a daughter and something had to like that happen to her and that her body was also disgraced, I don't think I would want to find that part out. Not gonna lie. I wouldn't want to find that part out, so we never truly know. It's just terrifying. It's just terrifying. It is just terrifying. Nothing more to say here.